the virtual room, and I will introduce you to some guests that are here. This is my dog, Reese. Isn't he thinks his name is Reese, but he thinks his name is You Are So Cute because he's just a very cute dog. So anyway, that's part of my family. He is a rescue dog from a puppy mill. He was supposed to be crippled, but he made it. He made it out, and he walks just fine. In fact, he kind of flies around. So, welcome everybody. This is Reverend Crystal Yarlett, and I am the creative director and officiant for I Do Wedding Officiant Training. And you are the one who leads people in saying I do. So I've heard a number of questions about pricing. So I really wanted to take a look at this today because money in our lives is pretty much a big issue anyway. And then when we're looking at at getting into the officiant world, that we need to be able to price our services accordingly. So I wanted to start with, price things in a way that's reasonable for us based on the experience that we have, the area that we live in. Because the area that I live in, we're going to charge a lot different than if you're someone in California. And probably it would probably be a wonderful opportunity for research on my part to actually call some other officiants. And this is something that you can do when you're trying to determine what price to charge, is to call some officiants in your area and find out what they're charging and how long, but always ask, how long have you been doing this? Because there are some things about being an officiant for a while that is really, really helpful. So, hey, Kathy, good to see you. So I want to give just a little bit of background of why I think setting a fee when we're an officiant can be something that's a little bit difficult for us. And it really goes back to the fact that whether you like it or not, being an officiant is on some level associated with being spiritual. I always make a difference between being religious and spiritual. So in this instance, let me say spiritual, because it was always the priests and the ministers that were the ones that were able to lead ceremonies. And they often didn't make any money at all. I mean, they had probably got a good meal, some pats on the back, that kind of thing, got a good reputation in town, but they did not necessarily get money for doing their work. Now, the reason is because they had a congregation that was there to support them. And in those congregations, they had a home to live in. A manse was often provided. Their food, they were often invited to dinner, or the food was provided. All of those expenses that we have to pay for ourselves were taken care of. So I want you to consider that, first of all, when you're thinking about your fee, and if you have any guilt at all about charging money for what you do, because it really is something that you have to cover your own expenses now. There's nobody that's going to do that for you. So first of all, in setting your fee, you want to be aware of what you are spending on supplies, on gas, on different things. And there is going to be a balance between charging too much and charging too little. So it really depends on I hear what you're saying, Alice, about charging more because I'm afraid if I'm not so cheap, people will not hire me. When you go drive 2 hours away and you charge $45, they got a good deal. So let's go through a couple of these ideas about, because there are prosperity issues in here too. You cannot let fear run what you're doing, because if you do that, you are always going to be settling for less. Now, there are certain instances where you might want to give somebody a discount. Like I always give veterans and teachers a discount when I officiate a wedding for them. I will give them something, or if someone pays the fee in full, I will do that. So I've created a checklist where you can calculate what you can charge. Now, again, it's going to depend on the experience that you have, but I want to also give a caveat about this too, because when I talk about how much you're going to charge based on a certain hourly rate. When you are an officiant, you really want to begin to think of what value you are giving in exchange for what someone is paying for you, rather than the amount of time. Like this year was the first year there was somebody that I told them what I charged for the wedding, and she said, that is super expensive. You're charging like $120 a minute. And I was like, it wasn't a minute, but it was she figured out something outrageous. But she didn't take into consideration all the years that I've been doing it. So a lot of the experience that I have, she's not going to have to learn the hard way because I'm making mistakes. Because it's not that I'm perfect, for sure, but I know what I'm doing. I have a fabulous ceremony. I provide a lot of services to people. I give a lot of value. I take extra time with people. So as you get experience, you're going to be able to raise your prices. But when you're first starting out, you do want to have a lower price. When you have done a wedding ceremony, always ask the person if they would give you a review of your services. Because number one, you're going to be able to learn, if there's something that you could have done better, and then you can adjust the next time. But then these are also, you want to start putting together a list of the different people who have experienced you, so that you can provide those to the next couple. Because if there's anything that's going to help to raise your fee, it is how much experience you have and what other people say about you. Like, I've got 72 reviews on Wedding Wire, and I use those reviews all the time. I post them on my website. I refer other people to them. I've taken some and I've made a little handout of recommendations. Not a lot. You don't want to do a lot, and this is getting way off the track. But when someone asks about my services, sometimes I send them the recommendations that other people have had if they haven't been to my website. So anyway, you might hear something that I do a lot of research. I listen to a lot of podcasts, wedding podcasts, business podcasts, money podcasts, spiritual podcasts, all kinds of things, and do a lot of reading. And I found out I did not get a chance to get to the library and find it because I could not do the research on the internet. I looked for Money Magazine, but recently Money Magazine had an article about weddings, and they said where one of the best places to spend your money in a wedding is on a good officiant. So what I'm hoping to help you do is to be able to truly define yourself as a good officiant who it is worth it for people to invest a good amount of money in having you lead their ceremony. So how do you know that you're a good officiant? And one of the ways that I judge is when I start to hear from the guests that this is the best wedding that I've ever been to. When you start to hear that, it's because, like, I have developed different techniques over the years that helps me to teach, to bring out the love stories within people and to really make some things fun, to incorporate some ideas that maybe other officiants don't. I mean, I have found so many wonderful officiants out there in the world. It's really incredible. But one of the conversations that I was listening to about why people don't want to spend money on officiants, well, first of all, it's because sometimes people don't charge enough. They don't value what they're doing. But in the wedding industry, there is not a lot of money to be made from a wedding ceremony, correct? Most of the money in the wedding industry is made from the flowers, the DJ, the venue, the food, those kinds of things. So often I've seen on some of these checklists and stuff that says, this is what's a reasonable price to pay for people. I've seen things all the way from, $50, Alice, so you're not alone, but $50 up to $1,000. I really like that. I don't know if you saw the ad that was on television. I think it was for Quicken Loans for a while. And it was this woman who was a traveling officiant, and it showed her sending out a bill for $1,600. Now she had like a tiny house. It was a little chapel that she was pulling, so she certainly had a lot more overhead than anybody else did. But I thought, that's a great idea, because it's helped, that commercial was really good, because on some level it's instilling in people's minds that officiants aren't supposed to do it for free, because it's related to the church and you're supposed to do it for free or for a low cost. But that it is something that is important. I mean, really, the ceremony is what is going to set the tone for the rest of the day. Now, if you're doing an elopement, it's a different kind of thing. But and I generally don't charge as much for an elopement as I do for others. But those are things, those are ideas that you have to decide about yourself, and we can talk about those. If that's a question, post that question. So it's easy to think that someone is paying us for our time, when the time that we spend during a wedding ceremony is really short compared to like a videographer or the band or the photographer. And so they forget that they're not just paying for our time, but they're paying for our expertise and the quality of the experience that we're bringing to being an officiant, to the wedding ceremony. So, this is something else that I thought about as well. And feel free to pipe in, guys. Well, I lost my train of thought already, so never mind. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to have to wait until that idea comes back to my head. So they're going to pay us for what they hope to experience. Oh, I know what it was. Because you have to decide if you're going to be a quantity person or you're going to be so low cost, because the quality of the people that you're going to get and how easy they are to be with is going to adjust by the amount of investment that people are going to make in your services. I took a class for a while. It was called Premium Packages, and it was about how I could add value to what I was offering. And it was really hard to change my price and to raise it to what this person was suggesting that, and they were not saying, you need to charge this much, but they were saying, add some of these ideas, some of these considerations to what you're charging. And I ended up charging $1,000 for doing my wedding ceremony, and I added a lot to it. And that included a rehearsal. And that was the most I ever charged. And there were people who paid it. But I didn't feel good about that after a while, so I lowered it. I'm still on the high end of wedding officiant fees, but I've been doing this for 28 years, and I've got a lot of resources that I provide people. So anyway, I don't need to go over that again, but you have to decide if you just want to try and get a lot of people and charge a little bit of money and then not have much of a relationship with them and not provide much for them, because there are couples that are getting married and that's what they want as well. Or if you want to try and create a ceremony that really has some personality to it, that it really reflects who the couple is. I hope this is making sense to you guys. So, in determining your fee, let's get to some of the practical considerations. You want to be aware of any ads that you create. Like if you are on Facebook, if you have an officiant page on Facebook, do you boost any of your posts so that other people see it and find out about you? Because you can boost posts locally so that, just the people that are in your area will find out more about it. I pay for ads on Facebook for the new officiant training program that I have. I advertise on the Knot. So I have supplies. You'll have supplies because if I don't know how you're going to do it. I have paper that I use. I provide a written copy of the marriage ceremony to my couple afterwards, and I have it in a nice envelope. And I use some nice colored labels so that it looks official and it looks nice. So I have those kinds of supplies. And then, all the cost of the ink over the year and having a nice printer, all those things. I mean, these are things that you have to factor into the price that you get. And I have fun paper clips that I provide. And if you're ever interested in taking the I Do Officiant preparation training program, I talk about this in the program. But I get these, I always donate to an animal. Let's see, everything is backwards. So I always donate to an animal rescue organization in honor of my couples. And so the paper clips that they have are these little dogs or bones. I have bones too. And then I also, sometimes I donate to like, wildlife, and so I have some penguins and other things like that. So those are just little costs that I have to figure into it, and all of it adds up over time, and you have to take these kinds of things into consideration. So what I think is that every year, until you get 3 or 4 years of experience, or you had done about 25 or 35 weddings, and you're going to want to start at a base price. So I am going to post, let me see here, I'm going to post this worksheet that I created, and it's on my website. And you can go there, and you have to, request to download it, and it'll get sent to you. So I'm going to talk about some of that too. This is what it looks like, the new Officiant worksheet. So there it is. So I think now I am in northern Michigan, and if I was in Detroit, the fee that I would charge would be different. So I don't know where, Alice and Kathy, where do you live? What areas do you live in? Are you in a big city? Because big cities will be more. I just thought of something else for you, Alice, too, because I know when you're afraid that if you charge too much that people are going to not hire you, I think you have to test it out. You have to be bold. Okay, so I think for the first year or two that you've been conducting ceremonies, I think this is your base fee. You're going to add more onto this, but I think it should be $150. $150. That's not very much. The very first wedding that I ever did was $125. So you're in Missouri. Are you in like Kansas City or St. Louis? Are you in a big city in Missouri? Because if you don't want to tell me, that's fine. But the bigger the city, there's going to be more people that are going to be putting good money into their weddings. So okay, yeah, you've been going to the bigger cities. Yeah. So what I would really suggest for you is that you get the worksheet and look at it and begin, just play with some numbers and test it out. And if someone really balks and you want their business, then you can say, well, I will, if you want to pay that fee up front, then I will give you a 10% discount, or I'll give you $50 off. You can make those kinds of adjustments. I don't want you to lose business, but I don't want you to sell yourself short. So for the first year or two that you're doing a ceremony, I say $125. Now, if you provide resources to your couple, like I have a packet of wedding vows that I've collected over the years that have been beautiful, that people have written themselves, and ones that people have created from the vows that I provide, because I always say, be sure, you're free to cut and paste. You don't have to do it the same as what I have provided. Have creative license. This is cool. So I provide wedding vows. I provide a wide range of selections of readings, all the way from scripture readings all the way to humorous readings. So I provide that packet, and then there's special ceremonies that are in that packet as well. So for every resource like that you provide, I would add $25 to the fee that you charge. I think that the supplies, when you average them out over time, I would add $10 to your fee for that. So one of the best things that you can do for yourself as well, it took me a long time to figure out how to do this. If you have Word on your computer, is that you can set up a merge document so that it takes you less and less time to create your basic ceremony that you use. And you put merge fields for the people's names and dates and those kinds of things, or anything that you're customizing in your in your ceremony so that you can do it pretty quickly. But you want to kind of average over time what it takes you to set everything up on your computer per hour that you spend on doing this. So if you only spend a half an hour, if it's a really easy thing for you to do, then you would add $7, because I'm suggesting that you charge $15. Now, one of the wonderful things, especially with millenniums now, is that they really like to have something customized. And it takes time to customize your wedding ceremony. And in the Officiant program, I've got some really great ideas for how to customize your wedding ceremony. And again, this is for people that want it to be customized. There are some people that just want a straight ceremony. So then you wouldn't charge $15 an hour for doing that. And I think $15 an hour is cheap, but anyway. Then you want to calculate, an average of the miles that you're, if you say I will travel within 100-mile radius and you don't want to charge extra for, going a longer distance, then you want to average out how far you're driving. And I think the hourly rate just for gas mileage, I think it's 54 cents a mile now. It might have changed because I don't charge that way. I just figure that into my fee. And then you want to, you go there and you come back. So it's for a round trip and the amount of time that you spend driving. So as a new officiant, let's just say you want to, as a base, be charging $15 an hour, or let's say $25. That's even better. So if it takes you an hour to go there and back, then it's $25. Within that range. If it's 5 miles away, it doesn't take you very long. It's still $25. If it's over, then then you have to change your price. The price for rehearsals, if you are going to get into doing rehearsals, I know that a lot of wedding officiants will not do a rehearsal. They feel like, just tell me where to stand, and that's all I need to know. So that may be true. And there is a whole art to doing rehearsals as well. And if you're just doing a small ceremony with just a couple of people, there is no need for a rehearsal. But a rehearsal in general is half of what you charge for your base wedding price. So in this example, at $150 to do a wedding ceremony, you would charge $75 to do a rehearsal. And really, when you think about it, I don't know if you've done any wedding rehearsals or not, but they take a lot longer than the actual ceremony does, and it's all based on the same kind of knowledge and time that you've put into creating the ceremony. So that's how that is. And if you join professional organizations, like I believe there is an International Officiant, what is that called? IOFA. I don't know what it stands for, but you can Google wedding officiant organizations and see what comes up. For any of those that you join, and if it's a fee, like this one that I'm talking about, it's $99 to join. You want to average that out, but these are also things that help to give you credibility, so that you look like you know your stuff, and that the fee that you're charging is worth it. Okay, so the last thing that I want you to consider is, if you do any advertising and you want to divide your yearly cost for advertising by the number of weddings that you do every year. So that's something like, I would say, about $30 that you want to add to your wedding ceremony. So check out that link and download that worksheet and just fool around with it and test it. Test what you charge and begin to value what service you are providing. Okay, it's not about how many hours you spend, or I got this off the internet. I don't know where you got your primary ceremony, but it's what you bring. It's the presence that you bring to the ceremony as well. A long time ago, I did a wedding ceremony that I wish I had said no to, and that would be an interesting Facebook Live to do at some point. Is, are there any ceremonies that you wouldn't do? And I don't want to give you all the details, but let me say that the groom was quite rude to me. And this was when I was the minister at the church that he was doing. And it was a big church in Atlanta, Georgia. And he was rude to me. And I just didn't say anything to him. Right now, I would probably have cuffed him and said, no, too bad. I'm not doing it. But at the wedding ceremony, I don't know what was going on between him and the bride, but I remember really putting myself into that ceremony like this. I really want to help these people to understand how important love is. Because, people are all giddy and, how would you describe some of the couples that you've done? What are some words that you would use to describe them? So you get all different kinds of emotions. But it's a very serious thing. When you're an officiant and you sign that paper, you're signing people up for a legal obligation, as well as, there's a sort of like a collective breath that they take that like, now I know this person's going to be there and have my back. I mean, that's the goal, right? And your understanding of marriage is something that you also put into your ceremony, and there is value to that. So I want you to think about valuing what you bring to a wedding ceremony. It doesn't matter how short it is or how long it is or how many people come to there. It doesn't matter how many people attend. It doesn't really depend on whether it's in, next to a river or in somebody's backyard, or whether it's in a big fancy venue or anything. You are bringing a presence to the wedding ceremony, and that's valuable. So, okay, I've probably harped on that enough. So let's see, what did Alice say here? My husband's husband wanted me to do their ceremony, but due to the woman and her bossiness of what could and couldn't wear, I refused to do theirs. Okay, that's fine. You can do that. I know that there are some officiants who provide an option, like one of my best friends in the officiant business, and she used to be a teacher when I went to ministerial school. She and her husband both do weddings, and they give people an option of what they're going to wear. And I don't. I tell people that I'm going to dress nicely. I ask them if they have a color scheme so that I don't wear, bright yellow when they've got, I don't know, what wouldn't bright yellow go with? I don't want to show up the bride by being too bright or fancy or anything. So I just kind of ask that too. So you have the right to refuse to do a wedding ceremony for whatever reason it may be. And always be kind. Always err on the side of kindness. Take a deep breath if someone's being insulting or whatever, and be kind. Because if you're not, it could, people make comments. Word gets out, and you want to be about building a really great reputation for yourself, something that you're proud of and that you enjoy doing. I mean, honestly, of all the different jobs that I've had in my life, and I don't really consider officiating being a job, I love marrying people because you get to go to some beautiful sites, beautiful places. If you decide you're going to stay for the wedding reception, and you might want to consider that in your price as well, because that means you have to hang around for an hour. Anyway, I don't charge extra for staying for the reception because I get a good meal, but it is my time. But you get to eat good food. You meet wonderful people. I mean, really, it's a happy, joyous occasion. So it's really fun. I mean, it can be really, really fun. So how many professions are there that you can have fun by emphasizing the value of the love that two people have found? So, Okay, so does anybody have any questions out there? Yeah, Yahira, how do you pronounce your first name? Yahira? Is that the correct way to pronounce your name? I don't like to not pronounce things correctly. Um, I didn't know if you had any questions or not, but thank you for being part of the group here. And so if there's no questions, check out, oh, I know what it was here. I was going to let you know about that link to go and download the worksheet for charging their fee. I don't know, would anybody care to say what they do charge right now for their ceremony and maybe where you would like to be? What do you think about that? Okay. Well, I just want to make sure that I'm going to charge. You want to be giving value to the couple, and it's value that the people want. We're not about forcing ourselves on anybody. And what we think is a good idea for them. It's always about finding out about the people. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me. And this will be available for replay. If you have anybody that you would like to ask to join the group, please do so. But they have to answer 3 questions so that I understand better how I can help people. So, Alice, don't charge $15. You, Alice. Alice! Okay. Alice, go download that worksheet and really think about that and what you're offering to people. I don't even think that a justice of the peace. I think justices of the peace often get at least $50, and they don't have to go anywhere or do anything other than say I do. But Alice, one thing you might want to do, Alice, is also look into some prosperity programs as well. So, you can charge that if you want to. Does anybody else charge that? Oh my gosh. Wow, that's really inexpensive. But it's really up to you, Alice. I just hate to see you not value the time that you've put into getting ordained, putting a ceremony together, showing up, trying to find out something about the couple that will make their ceremony at least a little bit unique for them, signing the paper, putting the stamp on the marriage license and mailing it in, all that kind of stuff. You're not even making breaking even at $15. So be aware of what your expenses are. Start there, and then value what you're bringing to the table. Okay. All right. Well, feel free to post any other questions in the Facebook group, and I'll get to them. And what was the other link that I was going to provide for you? If anybody is interested in, and I am by no means forcing this, but you might be interested in it. I do have a class. It's a course. It's got a ton of information in it to help you improve your wedding ceremony, to know more about the technical step-by-step processes of running a wedding ceremony. It's just got all kinds of great stuff, texts, these ideas of how to help personalize a ceremony and make it a wonderful thing for people. Oh my gosh, prayers. There's prayers for you, affirmations for you to prepare yourself for preparing a ceremony and for then actually conducting the ceremony. So there's a self-care element to this. And it's $79, but I'm looking for people who will give it a review. And so in exchange for that, it's half price. And so that's $39. So I'm going to post the link to that. And if you are interested in the in the program, if you go there and you decide you order it, you have to go down to the bottom of the page that this will take you to, and when you get to the payment page, you would put first 10, capital FIRST, and then the number 10, and it will automatically take off half. for you. So that's a little bonus for you for being part of this group. And it will also help me because I want people to experience this program that I've created and see how much it can help you to get confidence and to have the resources that you need. And then I know that you know what you're doing, and I'm open to referring you to couples that might come my way that are looking for someone in your area. Okay? All right. So thank you, everybody. And I always say, I hope to see you being the first one walking down the aisle, because often if you're doing a ceremony where there's an aisle, you're usually the first one who walks in. So thank you so much. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Bye for now.